everybody. We're here today with Sandra Jones-Keller, who is an intuitive pregnancy coach, an author, a host of a podcast on things that you're going to hear about parenting and helping women parent. She's a healer, a reader, an intuitive, and we are so grateful to have her here. Thanks so much for joining us.
Excited to be here. Thank you.
And she's in a beautiful setup, and I'm in a really funny situation. My daughter is moving out of her college dorm room, and literally it's happening in an hour. And I didn't make it in time to the hotel with a better setup. So here we are, just to fully be transparent about what's happening. But we're so glad that you're here and being part of the Cultivate Fertility broadcast summit. We are always helping women try to find ways to find ease on their fertility journey and find a deeper connection into who they are and working through some of the hardships. So can you tell me a little bit about how you became an intuitive pregnancy coach?
Pregnancy coach?
Yeah.
Yes, I have been a spiritual energy healer and reader for about 30 years. And after I had my daughter, I was in Hawaii. So my daughter was about 6 at the time, and I was in Hawaii, and I was explaining to a couple that were expecting how I had developed intuitive communication with my unborn daughter. And I looked at, they were giving me that kind of weird look. And I said, well, doesn't everyone do that? And they said, no. I said, no, because it was kind of natural for me. And that's when I decided that people needed to know that they can have this intuitive two-way communication with their unborn and newborn babies. And so I actually could talk to my daughter.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I totally interrupted you because I'm like, what did that look like or feel like for you when that started to happen?
I was about 3 months pregnant when it started to happen, and it wasn't something that I had planned. Before that, I had been rubbing my belly and, talking to my daughter. And I was in Las Vegas at one of our spiritual conferences with my then boyfriend, now husband, Thomas. And we were there for a long weekend. But what he didn't tell me is he had checked us out of our hotel room on Sunday to save money, and we were going to stay with a friend of his. So I was 3 months pregnant. I was very uncomfortable, and I didn't want to stay in a room with anybody. And we lived in Los Angeles at the time. So I said, you know what? I'm going to catch a ride home. And he totally surprised me by saying, well, did you ask the baby what it wanted to do? I was like, oh, what do you mean? Did I ask the baby? He's like, well, did you ask the baby if he wanted to stay or go? And I said, no, why should I do that? But I thought I would humor him. And I went away. I went into kind of a meditation, and I just tuned in. And I said, do you want to go home with me or stay in Vegas with Daddy? And a very clear voice said, I want to stay in Vegas with Daddy.
Oh my goodness.
Now, this is not what I wanted, because I had my own agenda. I wanted to go home, and I thought for sure she would want to go with me. And so I did it again, thinking I would get a different answer. So I said, do you want to go, must go home with me or stay here with Daddy? And she said, I want to stay here with my daddy. And I was like, oh man. So I went back. I said, okay, we're staying. So that was the first time that I heard her voice. And I knew it was her voice because I had my own agenda. I wanted to go home. And it was just like a very clear voice that I heard in my head. And from that point, I had established this two-way communication because I could actually talk to her and she would answer back. And so throughout I had a high-risk pregnancy. I had 2 large fibroid tumors, one at the base of my uterus.
I know
so I was already
a book about fibroid tumors, which is but if she has a book about getting pregnant with fibroids, which is fascinating. So so going.
So I was 41, so they already considered me kind of high risk just because of my age. And then I had these fibroid tumors. And so the prognosis for me was pretty dire. I would be bedridden for most of my pregnancy. My daughter would be 3 months premature, and I would have a C-section. And so I was never bedridden. I actually worked part-time up until the weekend before she was born. She went home with us at the end of our hospital stay, but I did have a C-section. And so I was able to do this because I established a partnership with her through this intuitive two-way communication to deliver her. So whenever I would go to the doctors, I would get like this dire news. I would go home and I would cry for a while, but then I would get grounded and I would tune in and I'd say, how are you doing? And it was always, Mom, I'm fine. Take care of yourself. And so she guided me through that pregnancy.
That is so beautiful. And before you had that communication with her, were you an intuitive? Were you hearing, communicating with other people psychically or through other communication, or was this sort of your first?
Well, like I said, I've been an energy healer and reader for almost 30 years now. So this happened, she was born in 2005. So yes, I'd already been doing energy work and clearing and healing and stuff. But when I was pregnant, this was a whole new level because I had never even thought about if it was possible, never even thought of it until Thomas said, well, did you ask the baby? And so I had been having other types of intuitive communication with other people, but nothing like that. So that was my first experience with that. But since then, I've had a lot. But yeah.
And are you able to communicate with other, like your clients' babies, or how does that work?
Yeah. Absolutely. One of my absolute most favorite things to do is to communicate, like when I have a pregnant client, to communicate with the baby, because what these kids, we're in a whole new shift of energy. And this work for me is a paradigm shift in parenting, because what happens when I'm talking to a pregnant mom is the baby will come through like really fast and it will start clearing out the things that it needs so that it can hit the ground running. And so we're doing healing work on the baby and the mother and the relationship before the baby even gets here.
Wow.
And so I get messages like, I need you to be an advocate for me. Like when I get there, I need you to be an advocate. I need you to be clear about what we're doing and to be my advocate. Or I don't want you to try to control me. So this, so this is what I need. So they're giving instruction prior to when they get here. So they're not spending the first 5 years of their life in a power struggle with their parents, because they're coming in with a lot to do. The babies that I'm dealing with are old souls. So they're very wise, they're very clear, they're coming through with their own life purpose. And so they get the opportunity to communicate with their parents while in utero, clearing out a lot of things that could be obstacles for them. And so it's shifting how, it's very exciting because it's shifting how the parents begin viewing them. Like they're not just, oh, I get to be a mother because I want to be a mother. It's like, no, I am cultivating this relationship and I am the way shower for this soul that is coming through. And so it's a different way of looking at parenting. And you're looking at your child as this spiritual being with awareness and consciousness and the ability to perceive and to know. And so you automatically begin communicating with them differently, treating them differently, and being with them differently.
It's so different than the old paradigm, right? Where people had kids like to own them or to work for them, right? Or and that was maybe not own. I never thought I owned my kids or anything, but certainly there's a hierarchy, right? Like that's how just or how
do as I say, not do as I say.
Maybe and I got really clear communication from my third baby. It was really obvious. Like she came in strong, she came in forceful. She was like hanging out with me for a long time on my shoulder. I could feel her before however it worked that she magically dropped in. But yeah, that was always the message. Like just kind of like stay out of my way, lady. Like in the nicest way. Like
and the stay out of my way is not like being hands off, and it's not about being distant. It's about being that anchor for them, creating that safe space for them to thrive.
Right.
And we
So
don't
they
know
can
what
do
that
what they
thriving
want to
looks like.
do.
So
Exactly.
they can do what they've come here to do. Exactly. Yes. And we don't know what we've come here to do. So what they've come here to do. And so if you get caught in trying to plan out their lives and, okay, they're going to do this, 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 that may not be their path. And so what you're going to end up with is a huge power struggle because they're trying to stay on their soul path and you're trying to lead them down this very third dimensional physical path.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And so are you working when you're working with pregnant women, are these the types of souls you're continually seeing?
Yes.
Or yeah.
The people that are drawn to me are the ones that are having these old soul babies and the babies that are very clear. They're very certain. They're very connected to their own source energy, whether you call it God, Allah, Buddha, but there's an awareness that there's something bigger. And so like I consider my daughter an old soul. And how she describes it is like, I know that I'm part of something bigger. And so they operate very differently. And so, we act as her guide. And that doesn't mean you don't get into the parenting stuff because we are on this human plane. But our overall intention is that of treating her like the divine spiritual being that we know she is.
That's so beautiful. And how many children do you have?
I have one.
You're one.
Yeah, and
Beautiful.
I just have one daughter and she's getting ready to go to college next year. She's a junior in high school now and she'll be a senior next year. So
It's really
yeah.
fun. I do have a junior in high school too. It's really fun.
Yeah.
I love that time of year. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
And so for women who are struggling to get pregnant, because most of the people who end up here in our Cultivate fertility community are wanting a baby. Many of them are connecting to their babies in the spiritual realm and having some blocks or difficulty bringing them or working that into a pregnancy. And do you have any sense or ideas or tools of how to work with that energetically?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, what I do when there's someone who's trying to conceive, first we start with an energy healing and start kind of releasing the energy, the frustration, the fear, the disappointment. And then I call in the soul of the baby. And, there's a lot, millions of women that have had miscarriages. And so they want to communicate and they're walking around feeling guilty and bad and disappointed and frustrated. And we're able to call in the soul of the miscarried baby so that they can have some clarity and some healing, because oftentimes it's not about a physical abnormality. It's like the baby, the soul, consciously chose not to come in at that time. And it could be for a number of reasons. One, I did an energy healing on a woman who had a miscarriage, and her uterus had a big bowling ball energy in it. So it was very thick and dense. And so the first thing that the soul said was, I'm sorry, I did not mean to hurt you. But there was no space in your uterus for me. And so that's why I chose not to come in. And then another one, she had a split mind about her job and motherhood. And her mind was like, one part was in New York and another part was in California. So she couldn't reconcile how to do her job and motherhood. And so once she was able to get clear on what that meant for her, she was able to conceive and have a baby. And so I look at the energy and what's going on, because the baby is looking for maybe the right environment, the right timing. Maybe a mother is nursing and they want to conceive another one. Well, this baby could need all the attention. I had one woman who had miscarried. And then when we did the reading, it was like I got a picture. And so the picture was a pie chart. It was two pie charts. And one pie chart was like she had 3 other kids already. And then her job, her husband, and all this. And then what the baby said was, I need this much space. I need this much time. And she did not have that available in her life. And so that baby chose another family. And so what I do is look at what's going on with the mother, with the father in the household, making sure they're both in alignment. Sometimes one partner may want a baby and the other one kind of is iffy or not totally committed. So getting them on the same page, looking at what's going on environmentally. Are they planning on moving? Are they opening a business? Are they working? And so getting all of those aspects in alignment so that the energy and vibration is a match for the soul that wants to come through.
And so what are some of the things you suggest for trying to communicate with when women are trying to conceive, communicate with their spirit babies or the babies that are out there, and see if they can do some of the soul opening or soul work to help them along their journey?
In my book, Intuitive Communication with Your Baby Soul, I actually give some exercises to cultivate your intuition so that you can start getting comfortable with your intuition and knowing the voice of your intuition and being willing to follow it. And so learning to listen when you're communicating, and anyone can do this. It just has, and people have been doing it for millennia. It just hasn't been talked about. And so I've had a lot of mothers tell me, well, I knew what my baby was going to look like. I knew their name. I knew all this stuff because they told me, but they never told anyone because they didn't want to be thought of as strange or weird. And so really tuning into your body, tuning into the energy of the baby. And you can do journaling, you can do automatic writing where you ask a question. It's like, okay, what do you need to incarnate at this time? And you just listen and you write. Or you can put a question under a pillow before you go to sleep at night and you ask a question. And so you start connecting with the energy to find out what, if anything, the baby needs or what's blocking it. And so that's from a spiritual perspective, because I know you guys are dealing with fertility on a medical. And so I look at pregnancy as a spiritual agreement. You know, the baby in your belly is the physical part, but without a soul ready and willing to come in, it's the soul that actually animates the body. And so without a soul, there is no pregnancy, there is no baby.
Right.
And so you want to connect with the soul to find out what it needs so that it can incarnate it if it wants to. And some of these agreements are just for a couple of months. You know, they come in, the mother and the parents and the family gets whatever they need to get from that experience. And then maybe that soul will move on. So there's a lot of different aspects of it. But it's all in alignment with these spiritual agreements. So there's a lot of planning that goes on in the invisible realm before a baby incarnates. So it's an agreement between the mom, the dad, the siblings, oftentimes, the baby to come in. So there's a lot of soul planning. So it's not just happenstance that this kid came in through you, you know, so they came in to be with you. So it's a real honor. And so they can no longer say, well, you know, I didn't ask you to be my mom, because that is so not true, because they selected you to be their mom and their dad. And so just really aligning with the energy of the baby to figure out what it needs.
And so you said you had some exercises in your book. Is there any way you could do a small amount of an experience for some of these women listening to start to learn to tap into their intuition?
Sure.
You
You did.
I'm sorry. We didn't talk about this before, so you can say no.
That's okay. Well, you know, the first thing I do with any of my new clients, and before every session, is I get the person. I work with men and women. It's mostly women, but I do work with men. And so my first thing that I do is I get them grounded. And so do you want to do a grounding exercise?
That'd be beautiful. That'd be great.
Okay. And so I'm actually going to do it with you. How about that?
Perfect.
Okay. And so just close your eyes and just start allowing the breath to relax you. And start calling your energy back from wherever it is. And feel your energy coming back into your space in this present time growth vibration. And so call it back from your job, call it back from your family, and just be here now. And take in 3 deep, healing, cleansing breaths, bringing your energy, attention, and awareness fully and completely into this moment of now. Knowing that right here and right now is everything. And anything before this moment is the past. Anything after this moment is the future. And right here and right now is love, peace, harmony, wholeness, and oneness. And take a deep breath. And I want you to visualize your second chakra, which is located right below your belly button. And you're going to create a grounding cord. And your grounding cord can be anything that has you feel solid and sturdy. It can be a big, thick rope, a tree trunk, or even a waterfall.
Mm.
And so just visualize the area right below your belly button. I want you to feel a solid, sturdy tree trunk, anchoring in your creative space, anchoring in your womb. And I want you to start growing out these beautiful roots out of this trunk, and the roots just send them down your legs, through your feet, and into the center of Mother Earth. And you're going to go through a clear crystalline aquamarine pond. And in the center of this pond, in the center of Mother Earth, I want you to find a huge rock. And you're going to attach your roots around this huge rock. And just feel them spreading and growing and anchoring. Take a deep breath. And just pull and just feel yourself grounded and sturdy with your energy coming back to you. And when you have your energy back in your own space, you're able to think more clearly. You're able to hear your intuition. You're able to connect with those around you. And it's like a ship when it pulls into port. The first thing it does is it drops its anchor so that it doesn't drift back out to sea. And so you create a grounding cord so that you're solid and sturdy. Taking a deep breath. Just relax and enjoy the sensation of being grounded. Okay, you can open your eyes. So that's just kind of a short version of the grounding exercise that I do at the beginning of a session to bring people back into this moment of now, because oftentimes our energy is outside of us. It's way in the future, thinking about what's going to happen. It's in the past, thinking about what has happened. It's everywhere but in here. And when our energy is depleted, then it's hard to create and manifest those things that we want in our lives. And so the first thing I do is I get my clients grounded, get their energy back so that they can start hearing and feeling their own intuitive voice.
It is amazing how much the rhythm, the biorhythm just slows down. Like bring it back from my email, from the phone call. I just had like a business phone call right when we were supposed to start our interview, Barbara, all this stuff. And then you're just like, oh, it's from here that I make my life happen beautifully, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's such a beautiful experience. So lucky everybody, since you have this recording, you can tap in and use these tools to help ground yourself so that your spirit babies can find you. Because when
Yeah.
we're all blown out, it's hard to be found, right?
Yeah. It's hard to be found. Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you being here with us. So can you tell our listeners where to find you and how to follow more of?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You can find me at my website at sandrajoneskeller.com. And everything is on my website. There's a link to my YouTube channel. There's a link to my conscious parenting show. There's a link to all of my books. And so sandrajoneskeller.com is the best way to find me. And you can even schedule an energy healing session through my website. Just click on the schedule a session. And they're 1-hour sessions, and they're very just loving and gentle. And oftentimes there's a lot of laughter as we're moving the energy and getting you connected and getting you confident and reestablishing your connection with your own body so that you're not berating it, you're not beating it up, and you're not disappointed in it. You want to reestablish and start loving your body again so that it can do what it needs to do to bring your baby into this world.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you for spending Friday afternoon with me and my daughter's moving out dorm room.
Yay. Thank you for having me.
I'm really grateful we made it work, and you were
Thank
very
you.
patient with me. So thank you for being here, and we'll see you soon on the next show.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.